Blessings, everyone. Welcome to the new Just Us Speaks podcast. From Just Leadership, I'm your co-host, Lester Young.
And I'm your co-host, Hakeem Cramden. Just Us Speaks is being produced to amplify the voices of directly impacted people, particularly the voices of formerly incarcerated people.
Just Leadership was founded on the principle that those who are closest to the problem are also closest to the solution, but too often further from the resources empowered to affect positive change.
So right here on our first season of Just Us Speaks podcast, we're interviewing leaders from the most recent 2022 cohort of Just Leadership's USA's Leading with Conviction Leadership Training Program.
Today, we're talking with Lana Mendis. Lana is currently serving as Just Leadership Administrative Coordinator. She also works with the Lutheran Metropolitan Ministry part-time with Chopping for Change, a culinary arts program for incarcerated women. Powerful, powerful.
Indeed. Lana is also a great mentor, as well as an ambassador for Prison to Professional PhD, that's P2P, working on the STEM Opportunities in Prison Settings project. In addition, Lana also attends Ohio Christian University full-time, majoring in leadership and ministry and pastoral care, and continuing straight into her business management MA and leadership in 2022.
Wow, does she have any time for herself to do anything, bro? Although Lana works in the finance and brokerage industry for 18 years prior to her incarceration in 2016, which changed her life, she's very passionate about advocacy and policy reform within the criminal legal system. This passion stems from encountering many obstacles and difficult challenges, trauma, and adversity in her life.
Yeah, so in fact, Lana is a survivor of abuse, of the foster care system, of neglect, of homelessness, of domestic violence, and incarceration. So Lana, welcome to Just Us Speaks podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I really appreciate this opportunity to share a little bit about who I am, why I do what I do, and being a part of such a wonderful team.
Cool. Listen, you're the first guest. So how does it feel to be the first guest of the Just Us Speaks podcast today? Like, you're the first one.
I feel special. I feel, this is a privilege to do this. And I think this is great. It's a great opportunity to be heard. And because that's what we do, we help amplify those voices. And
Indeed. So tell us, what is it that you do? How did you get involved in it? Tell us about that.
I'm the lead admin coordinator for Just Leadership USA. We help with different programs across the country, like Leading with Conviction, emerging leaders, creating, having partners that work with us in these different communities to help leaders such as us grow and become leaders within a community. I also work for Lutheran Metropolitan Ministry and Chopping program, which is a program that works with women and men who are currently incarcerated, and what their goals are is to receive their associate's degree in culinary arts. So I also work part-time with them. And it's great because I actually graduated from that program while I was incarcerated. So, of course, that's a part of my story. I have the lived experience, which is one of the reasons why this is a passion of mine, to help those who have walked in my shoes or at least similar. And I also work in the STEM Ops program, STEM Ops meaning STEM opportunities in prison settings. I'm an ambassador for Prison to Professional PhD, and that's important to me as well because education is very important to me. I am in school full time. I actually just graduated with my bachelor's and going to MBA. And thank you. It's a lot of work. And like you said, I don't have time because I'm also a mother of 3 and a grandmother of 1. So that's something that a lot of people don't know. But nonetheless, I feel like a lot of educational opportunities for those who are incarcerated is essential. And it also helps reduce the recidivism rate the higher the education level is. So those studies have been known to be factual.
Before we, I appreciate you sharing that. And one of the questions I want you to share with us in the audience, for those who get a chance to listen to this podcast, is, like I said, who are you? Like, who are you? You gave us the list of all of your things that you have done, but who are you that Just Leadership staff? We know that you're Just Leadership staff. We know that you just graduated from Leading Conviction. but who are you? Like, in that capacity that has made you the woman that you are, the mother that you are, the community servant that you are. Who are you? And I just want you to share that briefly with the audience, like something that no one really knows about you, but just tell us who you are today, outside of all of the other great servant leader stuff that you're doing. What is it that we need to know about this woman that is sitting before us today on this podcast?
This woman sitting here has been through a lot of trauma. And I always say that my story is my testimony. And I share a lot of my story to others. Now I can be a little more open about it because I know it's going to help someone else, grow, someone else, encourage someone, help someone, give them hope. Because I've been in so many situations where I just thought life was over. Things where I felt hopeless. I played the victim. And I'm a person who I enjoy seeing others smile and succeed. And I'm that person who would sacrifice my own time and my own self in order to make sure that someone else is good. And, sometimes people say, well, no, you can't do that. Well, sometimes that's what we're here for. I feel I'm a servant and a leader at the same time. So that to me, it's like you have to be, if you're a leader in leadership, you also have to practice humility. And I'm that person who will be your biggest cheerleader. I understand a lot more than people think. One of the things I say, you can't judge a book by its cover. And I am passionate about what I do because of my lived experiences and because of things that I've encountered since a child that a lot of people don't know. But I smile and I thank God every day for taking me through, bringing me through this so I can help encourage the next woman, child, man, whoever needs it.
Cool. Hakeem, I want to unpack a lot of that, but I'm gonna get to my co-host because I'm not gonna take up too much space here. So Hakeem.
yeah. No, your answer really leads me into this next question. Like for both Lester and I, and I'm sure this may ring true for you, and I want to kind of question that. Most of what we do, and most of how we do it really is a result of who we really are. Like, when we asked you, who are you? And you described, your first response was, you're a person, a woman that's been through a lot of trauma. And for me and Lester, trauma being our background is what motivates us and inspires us to get into this work, to lead leaders, through the healing process and into the next phase of their leadership. And so, for us, that's satisfying. We know that we can help relieve the trauma from someone else that's experiencing it, so that perhaps someone don't experience it that we experience. So tell us, what is the most satisfying part, of you doing this work? And is there a connection to you working for Just Leadership and doing the work that you do with the Culinary Arts Program? Is that satisfying? And what is satisfying about it? And is that connected to your past?
Yeah, I'll start where it is very satisfying. It's fulfilling. What's satisfying about this work is watching people grow and live and walk in their purpose. Like, for instance, Chopping for a Change. I love cooking and I loved culinary. Like, I love creating dishes. I'm one of those people where I love food. I love to cook and I love to see someone satisfied through what I've created. So to me, it's like art, right? I'm a creator of like plating, things like that. So being in that field and watching other men and women enjoy that, allowing them an opportunity to grow and that become a passion of theirs, despite what their background is, despite what they've been through or what society would label them as, and see them grow in that's fulfilling. That feels great. What I do with Just Leadership, watching leaders develop, watching them walk in their purpose and speak and help amplify, their voice and creating these leaders within the community to help directly impacted people, who have been affected by the criminal legal system. We're trying to help them self-organize. We're trying to help them grow and become more comfortable in spaces that they are uncomfortable in. So I love that saying where they say those closest to the problem are closest to the solution, but furthest from the resources. So what I love about us is that we're helping to create a table of our own so that we can be heard. Instead of, it's important that we go sit at someone else's table so they can hear us, but we need them to hear us. So when we have a table, they know, they come to us and they hear what we have to say about changes that need to be made. And we have that power to create those changes. So a lot of this, again, stems from my lived experiences. So I'm that person who wants these changes to be made, and who better, be a part of it than those who have been in it.
Yeah, and I ask permission to unpack something with you. You mentioned something about trauma, and Hakeem asked you about how that has influenced you, and then you mentioned how you have went through what you went through so that you can actually help other women become stronger, right? And we're talking about leadership. We're talking about servant leading. We're talking about this leading with conviction. And we know that there's going to be a lot of women who are directly impacted, who may still be incarcerated in some form, that may get a chance to listen to this Just Us Speaks podcast. So if it's okay with you, I want you to really expound more upon that part of your life, that trauma that you had to fight through to get where you at today, that you're now doing all of these phenomenal things with culinary arts, helping women graduate, getting your degree from college, working with Just Leadership, just graduated from the Leading with Conviction. All of these are things that people see, right? But what they don't see is, I want you to talk about that you had to fight to get to this part of your journey right here as a leader. What are some of the things that you want to share, if it's okay, if you're comfortable with? What is those things that you had to fight through to get where you're at today? Because I'm pretty sure your story is going to inspire a lot of other women who are going to get a chance to listen to the Just Us Speak podcast.
And so some of my story does include, I've been through a lot of trauma. And what I do know is that it can be really heavy to discuss sometimes. Mm-hmm. And sometimes very difficult. I share a lot of my story about my incarceration and things that I went through in my childhood to help, others, especially women, know that no matter what, you can get through it. Some of my past includes a lot of bad choices, a lot of bad mistakes that I've made. Obviously, it landed me into incarceration. And what I decided to do, even despite my past, is I decided while I was in, I had a choice. I'm sorry, y'all. It's a deep question right now.
No problem. Like I said, we can move to something else. I just wanted, because the purpose of this question is, again, the Just Us podcast is to speak about leadership. But I think it's important that as leaders to share just a little bit about how we got here. I just wanted to just give you space to unpack that, and I didn't want to gloss over that.
Just Leadership USA amplifies the power of directly impacted people by investing, educating, empowering, and elevating their voices so they have the tools and resources to self-organize and advocate for themselves, their families, and their communities. Together, we build an equitable, fair, and just U.S. To date, over 1,400 leaders in 45 states and in Washington, D.C. are hard at work transforming people and communities who are harmed by mass incarceration. Please partner with us to bend the arc of criminal legal reform by donating to our leadership programs today. Our network of leaders is strong and growing. Together, we're building local power for national impact. Every donation supporting JLUSA and our leaders has a ripple effect across families, communities, and generations. With your support, we can continue working together towards our singular vision of a just, equitable future for all. To learn more, go to jlusa.org JLUSA.org/give2023. That's JLUSA.org/GIVE2023.
We can move into the next question, and that will be, what is one book that really inspired you during your incarceration to embark upon this role as a leader today? What is that one book, and why was it that one book that inspired you?
That one book, oh my gosh. I don't know if you all heard of Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren.
Yes, I have.
That was that one book. Honestly, that was that one book that prior to incarceration, everyone's like, you need to read it. I'm like, I wasn't big into, I liked reading, but not really. I like watching movies more so. However, when I was in, of course, nothing but time. So I must have read that book about 4 times and was a part of 3 of those that had turned into Bible studies. So that book, Purpose Driven Life, helped guide me step by step why it's important, why my life is important, why the experiences that I had, basically helped mold me into who I am today. So although they may have been, not so great experiences in life and somewhat traumatic and painful, that helped is with the incarceration, especially, that helped create in me someone stronger, someone who wanted to, help others. While reading that book and learning more about what my purpose is, it helped me to become even a leader while I was incarcerated, because I was conducting groups and facilitating different, Bible studies and things of that nature. So that helped me grow and come out of this box that I lived in, because I've always been known to be a quiet and shy person. And reading that book really helped. Honestly, I feel like it was a part of what changed my life and helped me see that, despite what I've been through, I have a purpose, and it's definitely to help others.
So would you say that that's your motto, for example, helping others? That's your motto in life?
That's my motto in life. Yes. My motto in life is helping others, and don't judge a book by its cover, because you never know what their story is.
Hakeem, what was that favorite book for you? Like, I know I'm familiar with the Purpose Driven by Warren. That was a very powerful book, but mine would be, I think me and you share the same book, right? Malcolm X, Alex Haley. What was that? We would say that was both of our books that inspired us.
Absolutely. It really was. And of course, just like for you, I'm sure there was multiple books that really impressed upon you, but there's always one that kind of stands out. Now, for me, it was an autobiography of Malcolm X, and that led to many other things like Dr. Naim Akbar, the Community of Self, Visions for Black Men, etc. But so, Lana, I know I just asked that question about your motto in life because, we're really talking about leadership and whatnot, but I want to combine 2 other questions for you, right? You just graduated Leading with Conviction, phenomenal leadership program of Just Leadership USA. Could you kind of tell us, define what is leadership for you, and simultaneously, what was your favorite part of the program of Leading with Conviction?
Leadership for me is working with others as a team to help everyone grow. Leadership to me doesn't mean just take control of a situation and do it yourself. Leadership is a team effort. Each of us have, a gift. Each of us have a purpose. And I know in leadership, we each have a role to play. And some of us are more creative. Some of us are more organized. We have better organizational skills or things of that nature. And in leadership, I feel that we have to come together. And again, what's that motto? The value, problem, solution, action, VPSA model. It's important to utilize that, because we have to come together, find out what's the issue, right? And what's the value in it? And this is what it might take away from it. The problem is, what threatens that value, right? And then the solution, it restores that value. I'm remembering this. Do I get an A+ for this? And then the action is, what can we do? You know, we got the solution. So what can we do to come together? So leaders in leadership, that's what we do. We come together and we try to come up with this solution we want to be problem solvers, but we also want to take action and come up with that solution so we can get it done. Right. Okay. To me, that's important. And my biggest takeaway from LWC, cohort 2022, woo woo, shameless plug, was that we were a community. So I kind of went through a lot behind the scenes, in a sense where some of my cohort members, and I'm going to throw her name out here, Keita Haynes. I remember after my it was the last forum, and all I did was talk myself down before I even spoke. And I was very emotional, and she called me. She was like, I need you to talk. I need to talk to you. And we had a whole conversation. This was during our lunch break. I believe it was during lunch break, or it may have been after, but she encouraged me so much. And I still worked with some of the leaders that I graduated with in that community, that sense of family. That was amazing. And I love that, because we get, we're spending 5-6 hours a day on these weekends together, even though it was on a Zoom call, but it was still, we had similar stories, so we could relate to each other. We all had these lived experiences where sometimes outside society, they don't understand what that feels like and what we go through and what adversity we face. But together we were strong and we supported each other. So that community, that family, that, everyone uplifting each other and working together meant a lot to me. And I threw Keita out there because, I admire her as a speaker. And she shared some things with me that really, really helped me. And with leading with conviction overall, helped change my perspective, helped me grow, helped me see myself more so as a leader and not as a failure, and helped me to even know more and understand more what my purpose in life is and why I do what I do, because I want others to feel the same way. I want others to experience the same thing so that they know that their life, they're here for a reason and their life is important.
We just say shout out to Keita Hayes, because I think we're going to be interviewing her. She's the next person for the Just Us Speak podcast. So shout out to her. Obviously, it sounds like, going through the Leading with Conviction was not only just about you learning new leadership principles, but it sounds like you was able to add more to this family. This what it's all about. When I look at the formerly incarcerated community, Leading with Conviction, emerging leaders, it's almost like we become a family, right? It's like you become a family now, and then we all have a similar story. We support each other. We stand on each other's shoulders. We encourage each other, because one of the 5 practices of the leadership that you remember is encouraging of the heart. And it sounds like what Keita did for you during that phone call, where she stepped into one of her roles as a leader, and that's to encourage the heart of someone else. So that's always a beautiful thing that comes from our Leading with Conviction, is that we see these 5 practices. We see those members who are going through, the alums that are going through, and they actually displaying and demonstrating that. So shout out to Keita. And how can you remind me to we shout out Keita and let her know that Lana says that she really encouraged, appreciate that.
We are so excited to invite you to the Just Leadership USA 9th Annual Benefit Gala, Monday, June 5th, 2023, at PhD Rooftop Lounge at Dream Downtown in New York City. We're excited to bring JLUSA leaders, allies, and advocates together in person to unite around our shared values and propel our vision for the future. During the last year, we've made significant strides in building our capacity and infrastructure to become the only national systems change movement and policy table led by and for directly impacted people. This coming June, please join us for our first in-person celebration in over 2 years. Learn more at jlusa.org/gala. That's jlusa.org/GALA.
Before we wrap this podcast, got a couple more questions to ask you. And one of them is, I asked you about the book, right? And you mentioned Purpose Driven Life was one of those books that inspire you. My question now is just like, who was that leader? Who is that leader? Who was that leader that inspired you in your most darkest days of incarceration to take on this role to say, you know what, one day when I walk out of this prison, I'm going to take on this mantle of becoming a leader to change the social narrative and to also be an inspiration for the women and the men who have went through what I've went through. Who's that leader for you? Past, present, future, whoever, who is it?
That leader for me was actually my chaplain at the time.
Nice.
Her name is Jill. She calls herself Jill Suddenly because she believes in suddenly miracles. And the reason why I say her is because despite all the no's, all the naysayers, she's a chaplain, and now she runs she in the area. She has local women's homes, faith-based living homes and she's growing. And the reason why she was really a role model to me, I remember before she became chaplain, I remember her coming to Ohio Reformatory for Women and speaking, because she speaks, she preaches and things of that nature. And she's a minister, and she came and spoke and she shared her story. And I was sitting in my little uniform, and I remember her. She had a tattoo of suddenly on her foot, and she's like my height. She's 6 feet tall, long blonde hair. She was like, I'm like, this woman's been to prison. She just didn't look. She was like a model to me. And I saw her. She came in. She started preaching, and she started sharing. I sat where you sat. And then she had she gave birth to her one of her children while she was incarcerated. And to hear her story and see where she's at now, like at that time, I remember sitting in that front row saying, you know what, this is what I want to do.
Wow.
I want to come back and share my story, because I was crying. I remember getting so emotional and thanking God for the opportunity for people like her coming in to help share their life with us and taking the time to speak to us and share some, give some great messages and things of that nature. She kept coming back. And then I ended up being transferred to the prison where she was chaplain. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like me. It was like a superstar, because I was like, oh my gosh, Jill. I couldn't call her Jill. I called her chaplain, out of respect. But it was just, she doesn't know how much I feel God used her to motivate me and encourage me all the time. And I still, I still appreciate her. But I remember she was that first person, that first face that I felt like comfortable. I felt, I could relate. And she was on that side. And I'm like, I'm going to go back. And that's what I'm going to do. I want to encourage others and give them hope, because I was so hopeful after that day. And every time I saw her coming, I made sure I was in the front row.
Lana, that reminds me of being in prison too. And that's what inspired me too. One of the first prison chaplains encouraged me to read this book by James Allen. His name is Chaplain Scotland. It's amazing how these prison chaplains became your first example of what it looks like, what I'm saying? And inspired you to do better. And he gave me my first book by James Allen called As a Man Thinketh. And that changed my perspective outside of the autobiography of Malcolm X. You know what I'm saying? So if you haven't reached out to that chaplain, I encourage you at the end of this podcast to go on social media, find her and let her know that she's been truly an inspiration to you in the past during your dark days and even in this present moment, because I just seen you light up when you start talking about her. And that's the beauty of what a leader does. And that's going back again to the 5 principles or practice of that you went through with Leading with Conviction, as we talk about encouraging of the heart. And she encouraged your heart to this very day. I can see it from your smile and how you just glowed from talking about that. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I do still talk to her every once in a while. Yeah. So Facebook, all of that. So yeah, she's doing some amazing things out there. So, and like I said, her story, the fact that she, sat where I sat, she was on the other side. She was incarcerated, but despite all of that and the adversity that she faced, she continues to do what she does and does great at it.
Nice.
That's wonderful. Lana, with the, with all that you just shared, and thank you for sharing that. We want to, kind of wrap this up with these 2 powerful questions and important questions for leaders and leadership, right? And after you having gone through what you just went through and then got hired by an organization to continue further in your leadership skills, tell us, what are your hopes for the upcoming year, as well as your vision for the future? What are your hopes for this upcoming year, as well as your vision for the future?
My hopes for the upcoming year and vision for the future. So what my hopes are, especially being, in this position and working with you all, would be, we want to aim to overcome the absence of consistent leadership in the criminal legal system, right? And that's by connecting the formerly incarcerated to and train them under structured leadership. So I know next year is going to be the bomb, because we're going to be in person a lot more. And although I think, Zoom calls are great, but we're going to have interaction with and these leaders personally. And I think that is going to really, really help with change. Right. And I'm super excited for the upcoming year, because I know that us as a team, we're going to help these leaders grow. And with the things that we have in place, I'm just excited to see people just kind of blossom in what they do. We're going to have more voices that are going to be heard, and we're going to take over. They're directly impacted. We have a story. We have many voices, and there's so much that we have that we've been, forced to keep inside, but now it's about to come out, and we're going to go out here and make some changes.
That's what's up. Listen, we coming to the end, and I really appreciate your candidness about everything that you went through and about your leadership, what your visions and your goals are. I really sincerely appreciate you. So Lana, what is, the biggest thing that we find most leaders struggling with in this space is taking care of themselves emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically, right? And we see that even with myself as a formerly incarcerated person, even with the work that we do with Leading Convictions, we find that leaders are always struggling about their self-care. And just want to ask you that, how are you practicing self-care and all of the things that you got going on in your life today? How are you practicing self-care? And if you're not practicing, what are the things that you want to start implementing into your life to start taking care of yourself and not everyone else?
So I'm learning about self-care. I know what it is. And what I'm doing now is I'm going to start taking my Sundays, and it's going to be for me. Just relax and kind of shut down, in a sense where I'm going to turn my phone off. No social media. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to give that day to myself and take the time that I need, and maybe even go to church.
Hakeem.
That's wonderful. We really appreciate the time you spent with us today, talking about leadership and your journey. And once again, you have inaugurated our Just Us Speaks podcast. So once again, thank you. I'm your co-host, Hakeem Crampton.
And I'm your co-host, Lester Young. Lana, thank you again for sharing all of that, what you shared with us, and being candid. And we really appreciate you, and continue to lead with conviction in everything that you do. Be blessed.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here.